Most effective thing you can do to build better habit is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. New habits seems achievable when you see others doing them every day. If you are surrounded by fit people, you are more likely to consider working out to be a common habit. If you are surrounded by jazz lovers, you are more likely to believe it's reasonable to play jazz every day. Your culture sets your expectation for what is normal. Surround yourself with people who have the habit you want to have yourself. You will raise together you will rise together to make your habit even more attractive. You can take this strategy one step further. Join a culture where one, your desired behavior is the normal behavior, and number two, you already have something in common with the group. Steve Camp, an entrepreneur in New York City, runs a company called Nerds Fitness, which helps nerds, misfit, and mutants lose weight, get strong, and get healthy. His clients include video games lover, movie fanatics, and average Joes who want to get in shape. Many people feels out of the place the first time they go to the gym or try to change their diet. But if you are already similar to the other member of the group in some way, say your mutual loves of a Star Wars, change becomes more appealing because it feels like something people like you already do. Nothing sustains motivation better than belonging to the tribe. It's transformed a spatial quest into a shared one. Previously, you were on your own. Your identity was singular. You are a reader, you are a musician, you are an athlete. When you join a book club or a band or a cycling group, your identity becomes linked to those around you. Growth and change is no longer an identical pursuit. We are readers, we are musicians, we are cyclists. The sheer identity begins to reinforce your personal identity. This is why remaining parts of a group achieving a goal is crucial to maintaining your habits. Friendship and community that embedded a new identity and health behavior lasts over the long run. Number two, imitating the many. In the 1950s, psychologist Solomon Asch conducted a series of experiments that are now taught to legion of undergrads each year. To begin each experiment, the subject entered the room with a group of strangers unbeknownst to them. The other participants were actors planted by the researcher and instructed to deliver script answers to certain questions. The group would be shown one card with a line on it and then a second card with a series of lines. Each person was asked to select the line on the second card that was similar in length to the line on the first card. It was a very simple task. Here's an example of two cards used in the experiment, conforming to social norm. Figure 10, this is the representation of two cards used by Solomon Asch in his famous social conformity experiment. The length of the line of the first card left is obviously the same as line C. But when a group of actors claim it was different length, the researcher subjects would often change their mind and go with the crowd rather than believe their own eyes. The experiment always began the same. First, there would be some easy trials where everyone agreed on a correct line. After a few rounds, the participants were shown a test that was just as obvious as the previous one, except the actors in the room would select an intentional incorrect answer. For example, there would response A to the comparison shown in figure 10. Everyone would agree that the line was the same even though they were clearly different. The subject who was unaware of the reuse would immediately become bewildered. Their eyes would open wide. They would laugh nervously to themselves. They would double check the reaction of other participants. Their agitation would grow as one person after another delivered the same incorrect responses. Soon the subject began to doubt their own eyes. Eventually, they delivered the answer they knew in their heart to be incorrect. Ash ran this experiment many times and in many different ways. What he discovered was that as the number of actors increased, so did the conformity of the subject. It was just the subject and one actor. Then there was no effect on the person choice. They just assumed they were in the room with a dummy. When two actors were in the room with the subject, there was still little impact. But as the number of people increased to three actors and four, and all the way to eight, the subject became more likely to second guess themselves. By the end of the experiment, nearly 75% of the subject had agreed with the group answer, even though it was obviously incorrect. Whenever we are unsure how to act, we look to the group of guide our behavior. We are constantly scanning our environment and wondering what is everyone else doing. We check review on Amazon or Yelp or TripAdvisor because we want to imitate the best buying, eating, and traveling habit. It's usually a smart strategy. There is evidence in numbers, but there can be a downside. The normal behavior of a tribe often overpowered the desired behavior of the individual. For example, one study found that when a chimpanzee learned an effective way to crack nuts open as a member of one group and then switch to a new group, they uses a less effective strategy. It would avoid using the superior nut cracking method just to blend it with the rest of the chimps. Humans are similar. There are tremendous internal pressure to comply with the norms of the group. The reward of being accepted is often greater with the reward of winning an argument, looking smart, or finding truth. Most days, we'd rather be wrong with the crowd than be right by ourselves. The human mind knows how to get along with others. It wants to get along with others. This is our natural mode. We can override it. You can choose to ignore the group or to stop crying what other people think, but it takes work. Running against the grains of your culture requires extra effort. When changing your habits means challenging the tribe, changing is unattractive. When changing your habit means fitting in with the tribe, change is very attractive. Point 3, imitating the powerful. Humans everywhere pursue power, prestige, and status. We want pins and medallions on our jackets. We want president or partners in our titles. We want to be acknowledged, recognized, and prized. This tendency can seem vain, but overall, it's a smart move. Historical, a person with greater power and status has access to more resources, worries less about survival, and proves to be more attractive mate. We are drawn to behaviors that earn us respect, approval, admiration, and status. We want to be the one in the gym who can do muscles up, or the musician who can play the hardest chord progressions, or the parent with the most accomplished children, because these things separate us from the crowd. Once we fit in, we start looking for ways to stand out. This is one reason we care so much about the habit of highly effective people. We try to copy the behavior of successful people because we desire success ourselves. Many of our daily habits are imitation of people we admire. You replicate the marketing strategies of the most successful firms in your industry. You make a recipe from your favorite baker. You borrow the storytelling strategies of your favorite writer. You mimic the communication style of your boss. We imitate people we envy. High status people enjoy the approval, respect, and praise of others, and that means if a behavior can get us approval, respect, and praise, we find it attractive. We are also motivated to avoid behavior that would lower our status. We trim our hedges and mow our lawn because we don't want to be the slope of the neighborhood. When our mother comes to visit, we clean up the house because we don't want to be judged. We are continually wondering what will others think of me and altering our behavior based on the answer. The Polger sisters, the chess parties mentioned at the beginning of this chapters are evidence of the powerful and lasting impact social influences can have on our behavior. The sisters practice chess for many hours each day and continue these remarkable efforts for decades, but these habits and behaviors maintains their attractiveness, in part because they were valued by their culture, from the praise of their parent to be achievement of different status makers like becoming a grandmaster. They had many reasons to continue their efforts. Chapter summary: the culture we live in determines which behavior are attractive to us. We tend to adopt habits that are praised and approved of by our culture because we love a strong desire to fit in and belong to the tribe. We tend to imitate the habits of three social groups: the close family and friends, the many, the tribe, the powerful, those with status and prestige. One of the most effective things you can do to build a better habit is to join culture where one, your desired behavior is the normal behavior, and number two, you already have something in common with the group. The normal behavior of the tribe, even often, the normal behavior of a tribe often overpower the desired behavior of the individual. Most days, we rather be wrong with the crowd than be right by ourselves. If a behavior can get us approval, respect, and praise, we find it attractive. How to find and fix the causes of your bad behavior. In late 2012, I was sitting in an old apartment just a few blocks from Istanbul's most famous street, Istiklal Caddisi. I was in the middle of a 4 day trip to Turkey, and my guide, Mike, was relaxing in a worn out armchair a few feet away. Mike wasn't really a guide, he was just a guy from Maine who had been living in Turkey for 5 years. But he offered to show me around while I was visiting the country, and I took him up on it. On this particular night, I had been invited to dinner with him and a handful of these Turkish friends. There were seven of us, and I was the only one who hadn't at some point smoked at least one pack of cigarette per day. I asked one of the Turks how he got started. Friends, he said, it always start with your friends. One friend smokes, then you try it. What was truly fascinating was that half of the people in the room had managed to quit smoking. Mike had been smoke free for a few years at that point, and he swore up and down that he broke the habit because of a book called Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking. It frees you from the mental burden of smoking. He said it tells you stop lying to yourself. You know you don't actually want to smoke. You know you don't really enjoy this. It helps you feel like you are not the victim anymore. You start to realize that you don't need to smoke. I had never tried a cigarette, but I took a look at the book afterward out of curiosity. The author employs an interesting strategy to help smokers eliminate their cravings. He systematically reframes each cue associated with smoking and gives it a new meaning. He says things like, you think you are quieting something, but you are not quieting anything because cigarettes do nothing for you. You think is something you need to do to be social, but it's not. You can be social without smoking at all. You think smoking is about relieving stress, but it's not. Smoking does not relieve your nerves, it destroys them. Over and over, he repeated these phrases and other like them get incredibly into your mind. He knows you are losing nothing and you are making marvelous positive gains not only in health, energy, and money, but also in confidence, self respect, freedom, and more important of all, in the length and quality of your future life. By the time you get to the end of the book, smoking seems like the most ridiculous thing in the world to do. And if you no longer expect smoking to bring you any benefit, you have no reason to smoke. It is an inversion of the second law of behavior change, make it unattractive. Now, I know this idea might sound overly simplistic, just change your mind and you can quit smoking, but stick with me for a minute.